Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. It has been a while since I did a Mythic tier list. In fact, the last one that I did with Levin was back before Seiros even existed, and the only 7-slot Mythic, or extra slot Mythic we had back then was Reginn. And obviously a lot has changed since then. We've gotten one for every season, and an extra one in Ullr. So Levin and I are here again today to do an updated take on this tier list, rank the new units, and see how some of the old units have kind of adjusted to the new meta. So everyone say hi to Levin.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Promise Me Three Things, back again with another one.
Do you have any general thoughts before we kind of go into it, just how the meta has been shifting in Aether raids recently?
God, I don't know. The meta has shifted so much, and I think some mythics have really skyrocketed in value, some mythics have made huge splashes, and some have really fallen off hard. So there's definitely stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I completely agree, and something that is obviously pretty fresh on all of our minds is the safety fence, which I'm still not sure how useful it is, but, it's definitely something that I was sort of trying to take into account with the rankings, so, I don't have a ton of experience with it because I haven't been using it, but, I feel like it does have somewhat of an impact.
I honestly, I may have estimated the relevance of the safety fence, but I do feel like it will have significant meta effects eventually. I think people haven't really figured out how to use it yet, but some of the stuff I've seen makes me think that it really, the fact that you can snipe a unit on turn 1 and then the other team can't act until turn 2 even after that, I think is kind of huge for certain player phase units.
Yeah, I think it certainly helps with kind of improving the viability of player phase strategies, but like you said, I think most people just are kind of trying the same things that they've always been doing, but with the safety fence stuck in the bottom row, which isn't really doing anything for them.
So basically take anything, at least I say about the safety fence, with a little grain of salt, but trying to be, future-proof, forward-thinking with this.
So we'll just quickly go over what our, how our tiers have been graded in terms of how we decided who goes in which tier. So in terms of S tier, these are oppressive meta-defining units who add some significant value to a team in their season. Basically, if you have an Aether raids team, you want to be using these units. That's what S tier is. Whereas D tier is units who are severely outclassed by other mythics in the same season and or just don't really fulfill a role that is useful in their specific season. So we've got them over here in alphabetical order. We'll start off with Altina, and speaking of D tier, I don't think we need to have a discussion about this one. I think she has aged terribly. She was never that amazing to begin with, and there's just really no reason to use her.
Yeah, I think her main niche that ever existed was using her as a carry, but once teams expanded to have 6 units, so bonus and mythics were constantly rotating as bonus units, having a mythic carry totally went out of style, so she doesn't have a niche anymore. I will say, I put her at the top of D tier for one reason, and that is, with Divine Fang and Twin Blades, she can enemy phase Seiros in Vantage range. That's about it.
I actually had her as the worst mythic on my whole list, but I don't have Naga, so maybe that's what's affecting my perception of her.
To be fair, the one time I tried to do that, I had Wings of Mercy equipped and it didn't work, so maybe she should be lower.
Okay, well she's definitely D tier, that much we can agree on.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accepted at this point.
Next up is a unit who I believe you don't actually have, but who I do have her. I have her at +1, and she has just been so valuable to me in Astra season. I think the fact that she gives extra res is amazing. Null Panic and her buffs have actually saved me a couple times, and just running Windsweep on her really helps deal with annoying Fallen Edelguards and Brave Hectors. So what are your thoughts on Ashera?
I think that I tend to underestimate her relevance just because I don't have her and I do fine, so how important can she be, which is not a good metric. I know, I really constantly do think that, she puts up effectively 11 more resistance on a unit, right? And that's massive. That's late season has always had so many more viable units because you could always get 10 res from mythics if you wanted it. And Ashera kind of does that as 1 unit instead of 2, which is just massive, just absolutely huge.
I agree. And again, her combat potential is actually existent as opposed to some other mythics.
Actually, yeah, as mythics go, like, having a Blade Tome effect is really nice.
That too, yeah, it really helps her get a lot of one-shots, which normally she wouldn't.
Makes up for the stats she's not getting as a Mythic.
Yeah, and obviously she hits res as well, which is generally favorable as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I had her in A tier. Not sure if you had her lower.
I had her in B, but I have no issue putting her in A. Yeah, and I definitely often feel like my Brunette has just not quite enough resistance, and geez, if only there was a unit that could fix that for me, so she must be pretty good.
The next unit is Bramimond, who I think was really high on our last list, and I think they're still very good, but it seems like there is a more null follow-up units in general, so maybe they're not quite as good anymore. What are your thoughts on Bramimond right now?
So I think a major change that has affected Bramimond is Dagr existing means almost every unit that exists in Light Season gets plus 10 resistance. And that really cuts into Bramimond's whole niche of, like, you can't buff your stats because they're getting buffed more, you know? Like, Bramimond's stats have not improved since the last time, but every unit they're attacking has. And that just makes Bramimond a little bit less effective as a combat mythic, which is what they are.
Yeah, that's fair. I think the fact that they have the guaranteed double just pretty much means they're always going to be sniping, like, units who are unsuspecting, standing around the sidelines. Any mythic they can definitely snipe, but when it comes to tanks, I think you're right that they do have a harder time taking out some of the units who they've been able to in the past.
Mm-hmm. There was definitely a time where I think Brammies could just hit too hard on tanks and, like, not necessarily solo them, but, like, set up someone to kill them, like, just barely. And I feel like that has dropped off some.
Yeah, fair. I had them at the bottom of S tier, but I'm comfortable with putting them somewhere in A tier, if that's what you were feeling.
I had them in A tier. I think that's quite reasonable.
Next up is Dagr, who was our first 7-slot mythic for Light Season, or is it 6-slot? I don't remember for offense. Is it 6?
6.
Okay.
6.
I think it's 6. And obviously she gives resistance, which is also amazing. She's also got Pathfinder, which is surprisingly useful. Ever since getting her, I've actually found that it has helped me a lot compared to when I didn't have it. And she's also got Even Tempest, which also comes in handy sometimes, I found. So I think she's quite good.
I think Dagr is amazing. I think a lot of people talk about her only being relevant because she's the first 6-slot light mythic. And I think those people are whack, because she is a great mythic. She, I think, has one of the best balances of combat potential and utility. Because the res buff is huge. People say Pathfinder on offense is not huge. It is. It has saved me so many times. It has set up so many cool plays. And having null follow-up and stacking that many stats and soaking Bright Shrine is just awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Ever since I got her, Light Season has been so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
So much easier. And I think... the one thing I will say that disappoints me a little bit about her, but this is probably just me being overly optimistic before, I was hoping she might be able to take on Fallen Edelgard because she has no follow-up, but she can't. Not even close. But she does take on Nótt very well.
Yeah, yeah, I guess she doesn't have the bulk to really take hits from Fallen Edelgard unless she's getting hit by, like, level 9 infantry school or something.
Yeah.
But she can really make a dent in a lot of armors, and we are seeing a lot of armors these days, and I think that's very nice.
Yeah, so I had her in A tier. What were you thinking?
I actually had her as the top of A tier. I think she's a very, very good unit. Also, S tier voice lines, though. Easy.
Oh yeah, I love her voice lines, they're great.
Way too easy.
Alright, next up is Duma, who is the OG Anima Mythic, and I think he's aged remarkably well considering, how old he is.
I think Duma kind of keeps on getting better, all things considered, because as, like, structures get higher leveled and more structures are introduced, the automatic level infinity catapult gimmick just gets better and better.
Especially now with the introduction of safety fence, like we said, we haven't quite seen whether or not this will have a big impact, but if it starts to become more popular, Duma is a free catapult, and you can have 2 catapults on the same map.
Yeah, I'm sort of feeling like, I feel like there's sort of a weird, balance in the meta right now of like there are some teams that get kind of stomped by safety fence, and then teams that beat safety fence kind of get stomped by bolt tower in a lot of cases. Not 100% of everything is going to apply that way, but I think that there is definitely a split between teams that lose to each of those, and that makes being able to destroy structures more valuable. There's even like, I think I've seen people running save skills on him in his bonus weeks, which he's the only armor mythic, so that is an interesting angle that only he can take right now.
It really is, and like again, the fact that he also stops people from doubling him makes him a really, really good user of save, especially in bonus week. So I had him in B tier. I feel like he's somewhere near the top of B tier, but what were you thinking?
I had him in A, but I do think I'm overzealous about the relevance of safety fence to put him there. And I also think that specifically right now, he does, outside of upheaval, function very similarly to Seiros on the map, but I think Seiros does the job better. I think that once we get another anima mythic though, he may become even better, but I think B is pretty fair right now.
Next up is Air, who is, I believe, the very first mythic of all time, and I'm not too hot on Air, I'll be honest. I don't use her on all of my teams because I find that her combat potential is basically non-existent, so I basically just use her to run Temari, but like with odd recovery and stuff like that, that isn't always reliable, so I don't know. I mean, I know you do use her for like Air Force and stuff, so what are your thoughts on her?
I think Air Force has lost value, honestly. Because when you think about it, we're seeing more and more far save on defense teams, and Air is not a unit who can cut through that. And also, we're seeing a lot of Note as a frontliner, and Air has a really hard time cutting through that too. So it is harder than ever to actually initiate for Air Force with her.
And aside from that, the only utility she really provides is the sparkling boost, which is pretty good, I guess, and the extra res that she gives. So those are kind of the only positive things she has going for her, in my opinion.
I would say that Air's real niche in my mind now is that she is the best mythic at like getting pots, because she's a flyer, she can run disarm trap, and she's ranged. And those three things really set her up nicely to get annoying structures destroyed and pots.
That's fair. I guess Peony would perform similarly if you don't have disarm trap. I certainly haven't given my +0 air disarm trap, and I think most people don't, but I guess if you were using her for Air Force in the past, that's something that you probably have on her already.
Mm-hmm.
So I initially had put her in C tier, but then after thinking about it a bit more, I was like, she's probably B tier. She's probably a little bit better than what I'm giving her credit for.
I have her B. I feel pretty good about B.
Next up is Freyja, who... Freyja has an amazing design, and I love her voice lines and her art, but as a mythic, she's not extremely useful. Just in general, hyper-offensive mythics are pretty hard to work with as opposed to ones that provide support utility, because she's not providing any support utility. So I don't know, I just don't think she's amazing outside of potentially using her as a Gale Forcer, but she doesn't even have a slaying weapon, which does also hurt her.
Freyja is a unit who does a lot of things. She's very like jack of all trades, master of none. Because she has like DC and damage reduction, but she doesn't have like the bulk or stats to do much with that. And then she like doesn't really get enough stats from her other skills to really function as like a player phase unit. Like she's just kind of split between phases and can't really do the things she needs to when you need her to, I find, pretty often.
So I had her in C tier. I don't think she's good.
I had her in C also. Because she's not D because she does have all these things that she can do. It's just that she can't always do them. That's the big problem.
And not necessarily that well either. I think she'd be so good if she could have those mythic buffs. I think she'd be an amazing tank if she could, but
I also think
doesn't get that.
She'd be a really good defense mythic too, because
yeah,
her ability to steal buffs can be really annoying to fight into. If you ever run into Freyja in Arena, it is not fun.
Yeah, no, she's just the classic example of a unit who's stuck in a mode or in a season that's not suited for her.
Yeah, she just doesn't have the things that she needs to.
So moving on to Hell, I remember, so in our last Mythic tier list, that was like right after the Mystic Boost seal was introduced, and that sort of influenced our ranking in the sense that we're like, oh, like Hell could be really, really good with Mystic Boost, so maybe she's a little better. But, like, aside from the fact that she gives defense, which Nótt now does, and also unlocks the 7th slot, she doesn't have a whole lot going for her, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Note sort of put Hell in the dirt, honestly.
Yeah, it's like you'd rather run double Nótt than run a Hell and a Nótt, you know?
Yeah, because it's, there are occasions where a Hell can be very annoying to deal with, but, I mean, like, she just, even in her bonus week, she pretty much gets one-rounded by, like, Bonfire Hector. And that's, I mean, if you're a green unit, you kind of need to live that.
I found the same thing with my, like, because I use a near save Picnic Lucas with Bonfire, and it's the same story as with Hector.
Yeah, there you go.
I've got her in C tier. I think she's not very good. I don't think she's bad enough to be D tier, but I just don't think there's much reason to use her.
Yeah, I also had her in C because, like, there are situations where she can lock things out, and she does still give that defense, which is really good. Like, stacking a ton of defense gets so annoying, but she's just outclassed.
Alright, next up is Leaf, who, honestly, I, like, never see him anymore, I swear. Like, even in bonus season, you pretty much never see him in Aether raids, and his whole gimmick is having that guaranteed double and also having Open the Future and a pretty high attack stat. But again, like, with the surge in near save armors, specifically blue near save armors, he just does so poorly against them that he's aged not that well, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. It's another case of, like, the effects that he gets are sort of spread around in a way that's unfavorable, because I feel like his best, like, for an infantry one range unit on the defense team, it's like pretty difficult to get into the action. So then you sort of need to run Wings of Mercy, which means you can't run your B skill, which is sort of the appeal. And then your B skill is also sort of enemy phase centric, which is like, if someone's initiating on Leaf, he probably dies. Like, it is not that hard to one-shot the kid. And then, like, also his special is unique, but it has its extra effect is healing, which is like, if you're getting one shot, you don't really, you know, it'd be better to just have more damage than it's just. He's another unit that would do a lot better in a different mode, I think.
For sure, yeah. I had him at the bottom of C tier.
I think I actually had him in D.
I think he's a little bit better than some of the other units who are going to be sticking in D tier, but maybe not much, so I'm comfortable either with bottom of C or top of D, whichever one you think is better.
I could be convinced either way, but there are units in D who I see way more often. You know?
I guess.
I think people kind of just don't know how to use him, and it's because there isn't really a way.
Yeah, not in the... So he does so poorly, and then I'll follow up and save meta, so it's fair. I guess he's bottom tier. Okay, next up is Mila, who I believe we actually put as our number 1 mythic on the last list overall, just the most useful, the best one overall, and, you know, before Safety Fence was added, she really fell out of favor because so many turn 1 force teams with on recovery existed, where her sabotage attack wasn't useful, her isolation wasn't useful, and the 8th turn isn't also that useful against turn 1 force teams, but she may have had a bit of a resurgence, you know, with the introduction of Safety Fence, so what are your thoughts on her right now?
Yeah, I think Safety Fence is bringing back Mila in a big way, because especially since it's light season, so there's not Duma, so you have a better chance of not getting the fence catapulted. You can actually pretty reliably get to pick turn 1 or 2 to engage, which adds tremendous value to isolation. And isolation's huge. I really think isolation was meta-defining for a long time, and if the Safety Fence does change things this way, which I suspect it will, it's kind of back. It might be the most powerful effect in the game.
And I've actually started using her as a ruse bot, which I've found to also be super helpful.
Ruse is so good, yeah. Getting guard like that is amazing. And she is a very good user. And I also still think that, like, we've talked a lot about, I talked about this last time too, but I just like bringing it up. We've talked a lot about the actual stat buffs that Mythics give. I think defense is a very, very good one to have, especially in late season, where I think on dark teams, physical damage is preferable because you're not getting that plus 10 resistance, or because you are getting that plus 10 resistance. So getting the defense buff is really nice. And she also gives 2 more to all stats on top of that, which is amazing.
And it's a pretty wide range too for giving those buffs.
Because like if you think about it, Freyja gives 3 attack, but Mila gives 2 attack. You know? It's like Peony gives 4 speed, Mila gives 2 speed. You are losing very little relative to others, even in the stats that she doesn't actively give, which I think is awesome.
I had her at the top of A tier. I'm not willing to commit to putting her in S tier until we see how viable safe defense actually is going to become, but I still think she's very, very good.
I did have her in S, but it is untested, so I'm not going to die on that hill.
So next up we've got Mirabilis. So Mira is obviously the only mythic dancer for, what's it called? Anima season. And she's also a melee dancer, which means she can run Odd Tempest or Even Tempest if you'd like. She's also got a decent niche running like Brave Sword or Ninja Katana to make it more difficult for people to just stall her out when they're trying to get pots at the end. I think she's quite good.
I think she's quite good. Although I will say that for all the Sturdy Impact Brave Sword I've run, it has never done anything. And I'm mad.
But it may have, like people may have, like, chosen to, like, stall her out if she didn't have that. I don't know.
I think she's still got installed out, actually, but whatever.
Oh.
Those are just my problems. The world doesn't need to know. I do feel like the Mythic... I'm just going to come out with this now, because there's no point in spreading it over multiple units. I think that the Mythic defense dancers are in a worse place right now than the Mythic offense dancers. Because they cannot, under any circumstances, dodge isolation. They can get cleared throughout recovery, but they will never dodge it. Yeah, there is no way to get Mira to a high enough HP, even in bonus week, to beat triple or quad Mythic Fjorm, and there's no way to get Triandra up to Mila defense levels. It'd be really funny to try, though, because she starts with like 14 or something.
Yeah, Mila could, Mira could probably reach high enough defense levels to stop Mila if you stacked enough, but definitely not high enough HP.
Yeah, so that's unfortunate for them.
I still think that isolation is not common enough in Astra season for me to say that she's, bad because of it. So I still think she's quite good providing that dance utility.
This might just be a personal thing, but I've personally gotten so sick of seeing how isolation can shut down my setups that I am now running Eldigan as my dancer in both seasons, because he can actually dodge isolation in both, and I just don't want to see it anymore. I don't like it.
Yeah, maybe I'm underestimating the impact of isolation because I run odd recovery. So I still think she's S tier. I'm just gonna come out and say it because she's a dancer, and isolation's not quite as common in that season.
I actually had her at the bottom of A personally.
Really?
I've been very. I even have like Sturdy Impact, Brave Sword, Odd Tempest, Mira, and she just hasn't done anything for me in a long time.
So what would you say her biggest weaknesses are that pushed her out of that S tier?
There's no way to get her to dodge isolation, and when she gets isolated, she is the deadest weight. She is free pots, she adds nothing.
And you think isolation is common enough to warrant like bumping her down a tier essentially because of that?
I have no desire to run her anymore, which to me feels pretty significant.
Alright, yeah, you've convinced me. We'll stick her in A tier. So next up is a mythic who's evaded me literally since her inception. I have tried to pull on every banner that she's shown up on and she just never came home. So I am so jealous to see how those of y'all who have Naga have such an easy time dealing with Seiros. I do have a bit of a trickier time because I don't have that dragon effectiveness. So I think her value is definitely proportional to how many Seiroses we see. And since Seiros is still the only 7-slot mythic for Anima, I think her value has held steady, I feel.
Yeah, I think that she's mostly valuable because of Seiros being a problem. But I do think it's a little tough because you have to make a call about, like, are we going to rate her based on Seiros being on literally every team because she's the only 7th slot Mythic? Or are we going to rate her off of, like, a future where a 7th slot Mythic is also Ullr, and people run Ullr, and now Naga doesn't do as much? I don't know.
I mean, I don't think it's worth thinking of the future at this point. I feel like, yeah, because we don't know when the next Anima Mythic will be introduced. They could hypothetically be a dragon. You never know, right?
Mm-hmm. There's also, like, even if another 7th slot Mythic exists, it's not like there's going to be 0 Seiroses. And there's also Duma, and because he has that follow-up denial, sometimes it is really nice to just be able to pop him in 1. Sometimes that's really nice.
Yeah, I've definitely had situations where I'm annoyed because I can't one-shot Duma, and I can't double him either because my unit doesn't have no follow-up, so yeah, I think Naga I've got her in B tier.
I had her in B tier.
Alright, I guess we're in agreement. I do think she's still worse than Duma a little bit, and I also think she's worse than Air. She, even in bonus season, cannot take a hit. She just can't. Like, anyone gets to her, anyone sneezes at her, she's dead, so.
She definitely has a lot of trouble with a lot of things, but she is one of the only, well, I guess there are more Astro Mythics now who actually do provide support, huh?
Yeah.
But still, I can jive with that.
All right, so moving on to one of the newer mythics, we've got Nótt. No, I don't know how to pronounce her name, so I'm just going to keep saying Nótt. She is obviously a unit who has made a massive splash in the meta with the fact that she enables Pathfinder on defense. Also, the fact that you can stack Pathfinder means I've seen like some disgusting triple Nótt teams where you've got ranged calves reaching the whole map. I think she's very, very, very meta-defining.
Do you just want to say it together on 3? 1, 2, 3. Best mythic in the game, not close.
Yeah. I agree.
If you've been playing Aether raids, I think you know. Like, just, she's decent in combat. She comes with a great base kit, and the level to which she makes things difficult or impossible to predict is honestly more valuable than any like effect on paper really could be.
I agree. Before I kind of got used to the whole Nótt meta, I remember I tried a hit and run strategy one day where I thought I had gotten back far enough, because that's what the ranges showed me, but then the turn after that she moved and then someone else was able to move extra because of that. It's just quite difficult to predict the way that she's going to move and the way that she's going to extend people's ranges.
Yeah, it's like, I feel like before it wasn't quite as important to be able to predict exactly which units will move in exactly which order to exactly which tiles, and with Nótt it is like, if you don't know that, you die in a lot of
Unless
situations.
you've got save skills, but
right.
Yeah.
Even then, sometimes, like, if you have like one unit outside of save range, like, you better be sure.
Yeah, exactly. Not much more to say about her. I feel like she's very good. I kept holding out hope that they wouldn't introduce Pathfinder on defense, but they did, and it has been a nightmare getting used to it.
Yeah. She's definitely is beatable, she's definitely counterable, like, but I do think that as of right now, there is not a mythic that has more of an impact on the team they're on than her.
Moving on to Peony, who is a mythic dancer. Obviously, she is an offensive mythic dancer, which essentially means she can't get isolated because nobody runs isolation on defense. So she provides that dance utility. She also provides the Orders buff, which is invaluable, has saved me so many times, and also provides extra stats through her dance buffs, and also provides column buffs with her weapon. She's got a lot going for her, and she's still really, really good.
Orders is broken.
Yeah.
Orders is actually broken. Especially now in the armored save meta, like, Orders is broken. Orders is so good.
Yeah, like being able to move armors around like that without having to run armor march has been so helpful.
Yeah, I feel like if she had an assist skill that was not dance and just gave Orders in the same range that her dance does, she would still easily be A tier.
For sure.
But it's not that, it's dance, so she's good. And I think I was wrong before to try and bump her down to A. I'll say that. More and more I realize that she might be the best dancer on offense. even considering other options.
She's definitely the best dancer on offense in late season. I don't see anyone who's better.
Her main competition is like herself.
But even that, like, duo hindrance is so common that...
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we're in agreement on that. Moving on to another offensive dancer, Plumeria. She is the only mythic dancer for Astra season. She does provide buffs and debuffs with her dance, which I found to be pretty useful. Having that ability to give debuffs through her dance has helped me, like, you know, make some healers force them to restore instead of attacking, which has been helpful, because I don't run other debuffs in Astra season. The one thing that makes her not as good as Peony, in my opinion, is the fact that she doesn't give the orders buff, which if she gave that, she'd be like so good. She doesn't do that. She doesn't spread around buffs either, so she's a little bit worse than Peony, I feel, but still very strong.
Yeah, I would agree that she's worse than Peony, but still right up there. I think that the greatest value of her compared to Peony is that she can give like a effectively like 10-point swing to attack and resistance, because it's +3 visible, +3 in combat, -4 to foe under the right circumstances, which is actually monstrous. If you think about how numbers in this game interact, that 10-point swing can be the difference between like doing 0 damage and getting a kill. Things are really stupid sometimes.
And the fact that she's got good res means that she can often survive mages and healers, which is also amazing.
Like Thrasir. She does really well against Thrasir.
And, like, she can survive most Veronicas, for example. It's pretty great as well.
Yeah, she's a good unit.
So I think we can stick her right here next to Peony.
I also really like that I feel like res is always a hot commodity in Astra season. And much like Mila's drives, that 3 res drive is like a very nice fill for like not having an abundance of res mythics.
So next up is Reginn, who was our first extra slot mythic. She's got Scyther Shell, which is extremely unique and helps her one-shot a lot of units who normally she wouldn't be able to kill. She's also got Canto, which is so invaluable. It allows her to snipe structures and then get back, snipe units and then get back, and even like repo someone in and then also get out of the way. It's just so helpful.
Yeah, she has a fantastic mix of utility and offensive capability. She can set up all sorts of things and she can finish off all sorts of things too. And I think the safety fence makes her even better.
Oh yeah, I hadn't even considered how safety fence would interact with her, but I agree. That Canto, the 3-space Canto, just so helpful.
Yeah, Infantry Pulse put up a video showing how you can kill a unit on turn 1 with Reginn and Canto out into safety fence range, and the enemy team ends their turn. You are now fighting 6-on-6 for free. And that is something that she's uniquely equipped for, which is unbelievably strong.
Yeah, I think we're kind of in agreement here. She's S tier.
Easy.
So next up we've got Seiros, who is still the only extra slot mythic for Anima season, which does sort of bump her up because you have to have her basically on your defense teams, or else you're at a big disadvantage compared to offense teams that are running 6 units. So she's also quite good in the sense that not only does she have a guaranteed follow-up, she also stops you from doubling her in both phases, which I think is also super helpful. She's also got the damage reduction, which can be super annoying because, like you said, it's hard to reach super high levels of resistance in Astra season. So I still think she's pretty good, even if you don't consider the fact that she's the only extra slot mythic.
She's got a very complete kit and is she might be the single defense mythic who most requires a hard counter of some sort, I would say.
That's fair, yeah.
I could easily be talked down on that, but she is the thing about Seiros is that she stacks so much attack that you almost can't do anything about it. This is a woman who you pretty much never see hit for 0. You pretty much never see hit for single digits.
Never.
And that's really scary, especially in bonus week. I do also think she has a little bit of future-proofing in her because, she's a combat mythic. Combat mythics do sort of tend to go out of style because stat creep, power creep, etc. But her C skill, preferred C skill, will always make new combat mythics scarier, which has ended me before. I've gotten got.
Yeah, we've all lost to Seiros' Wings of Light a couple times because we were like, why does Thrasir have this extra 4 attack and speed or whatever? And I die now.
Why does she have 7 extra speed? What's going on? On turn 5, she gives Spectrum +7, I think, and that's pretty good for a global buff. 2 mythics.
Yeah, so I had her in A tier, but I could be topped up to S tier. I don't know, what were you thinking?
I actually had her B just because she doesn't...
Oh.
She doesn't add the most, you know? She's just another unit that hits hard.
But she's way better than Duma, I think. First of all, the fact that you have to run her.
Yeah, the fact that you have to run... Like, right now, as a 7th slot mythic, she's definitely... She would not be B, she'd be at least A, for sure. I don't think she's S right now, though.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
You need to be able to deal with her, but I think I can go with A. Because I actually do dislike the arguments that she's not that good because she's purely combat focused, because just the way that she is combat focused is pretty sharp.
She's so good at it.
She is tremendously scary every time.
So next up is Sothis, who I trash on a lot in my videos, and for good cause. She's one of those units similar to Freyja, where I think she'd be really good if she could stack mythic buffs, because she is like sort of a tank with the way she's set up, but she's just not very good at what she does. The way I see it, there's no reason to run her over other dark mythics.
Yeah, I have 2 copies of her, and I've never run her on a team, because I would rather risk the -60 than be guaranteed the -40.
Exactly, yeah, it really does feel like she is like a net negative on the team most of the time.
Yeah, she is, I feel like the greatest value Sothis adds to the team is that sometimes you forget she has Wrath. And she charges her special, does 10 more damage, and it's like, oops.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what she has going for her.
And I've got multiple friends who have +10 Sothises from that Hero Fest, and they all agree with me that she sucks. So this is my proof. The fact that multiple people with +10 Sothises say she sucks, it must be true.
Mm. If we start getting Mythic remixes and refines, she's probably like first-ish in line. That could be very interesting, but for now, she don't really have it.
Yeah, I just preemptively put her in D tier. I don't even think we need to discuss.
Yeah, I think that's pretty free.
Alright, moving on to Thrasir, who is, she's really fallen out of favor, I feel like. I don't see her very often anymore. I just think that a lot of people have stopped using her. I think her role as a combat offensive mythic has kind of diminished because they're, like, obviously attack and speed power creep is very much a thing, and as tanks are getting beefier, she just can't really do anything against, like, the far save meta. She doesn't even counter Vector. So yeah, she hasn't aged very well in my opinion.
So I have conflicted feelings about Thrasir because I pretty much agree with everything you said, but also, whenever I run into her, I end up having way more trouble than I expect.
It's because you run Branya, right? So it makes sense.
I guess it's because I use all blue carries, but I don't know. I feel like my blue carries used to be able to deal with her better. I don't know what changed. I also will say that I feel like Thrasir is, like, theoretically a better unit than she's seen as right now, but no one is willing to run her that way. It might not be possible, I don't know, but I feel like the fact that she has that half of null follow-up preventing getting doubled means that if you could fully invest into making her tanky, she could really do some stuff, act as a Wings of Mercy beacon and make things really awkward, but I'm not sure if she's the unit that's worth all the skills that would take, like ARD stuff and etc. I think it's very interesting.
I'm still not convinced that she'd be able to survive a bonfire from Hector.
I'm pretty sure she could be built to survive a bonfire from Hector.
Probably like a +10 one, but if you've just got like a +0 Thrasir sitting around,
yeah, it's probably tough. Probably tough.
I think if she had damage reduction, like a 40% damage reduction or something on initiation, I think she'd be so much better than what she is right now.
Yeah, if she ever gets a remix, I think she will be back in a big way. Right now, she is struggling a little bit, but she's still not a unit who you can totally like disregard. She like can really mess up anything she gets in on. Not anything, a lot of things if she gets in.
I had her in B tier.
I actually had her near the bottom of A, but I do think B sounds better.
Yeah, I just don't think she's on the same level as the units that we've got up here in A.
I was thinking of her as like the closest analog to Bramimond for anime season, but
she's so far from Bramimond.
Yeah, the Impenetrable Dark is really good.
Poor Thrasir, I think we had her a lot higher last time. I don't remember if we had her in S or A, but she was definitely way higher.
I think I forced her into S because of who I am as a person.
That was before save skills too, I believe. So yeah, definitely shifted.
Oh, that was definitely before save skills.
So next up is Triandra, who is the only Dark Mythic dancer, which obviously puts her in a position where she is pretty prone to get isolated. And she I feel like her value kind of shifted when Odd Recovery was like everywhere, but now with Safe Defense, perhaps it has dropped again. So what are your thoughts on her?
I would agree with that pretty much exactly. In a game with no isolation, she might be the best dancer in the game. She might be the best mythic in the game. In a game with isolation on a mythic in the season that opposes her, who's really good, loses a significant amount of that value.
Yeah, I had her in S tier near the bottom on my list, but we've got Mira in A tier here, so it doesn't feel right to put her higher than Mira.
Yeah, most of what I said about Mira I think also applies here. Not the specifics of like Mira's particular play. I don't even have Triandra, so I can't speak to her from experience, but I do constantly find that I'm able to isolate her, and when I'm not able to isolate her, she's really easy to bait. So, of the mythic dancers, I think she is the easiest one to reduce to not doing anything.
You know, I've had weeks, especially in her bonus season, where she has netted a bunch of kills, so I do think her combat potential is better than all the other mythics, as in, like, because she's fast and has high attack. But, like, even then, like, the only people she's really going to be sniping are, like, mythics or support units, which a lot of units can do.
Yeah, she definitely has some combat potential, but as a dancer, I feel like that's almost a net negative because it means she will do less dances. I like A tier for her because she has these glaring weaknesses, but when she does the thing, oh boy, it's a bad day.
Yeah, the guard dance is just so annoying.
That is one of the strongest skills in the whole game.
So moving on to our newest mythic, Ullr, who a lot of people were sleeping on, myself included, when we first saw the trailer, because she looks like a unit who is prime built to be an amazing offensive defense mythic, but she is an offense mythic, which makes her just inherently worse, because having an offensive mythic on offense is always not as good for popular strategies when it comes to like tanking and stuff like that. So that kind of knocks her down a peg. But I've seen some really, really interesting applications with her with safe defense, where she can swoop in, be a really good unit who cuts through save skills super easily, cuts through people like Fallen Edelgard, Brave Hector. So I think she's a lot stronger than people are giving her credit for.
I think she has a lot of the same... I think Dagr's combat is a really relevant part of what makes her good. And I do think that Ullr can do most of that herself, in some ways better, in some ways worse. But something that I think is really interesting about Ullr is that the fact that she comes with like guaranteed Deadeye in pretty much every engagement does actually a lot to power some hit and run strategies and some Gale Force strategies, which I think generally we can agree have become more relevant in the age of the safe defense. And what I mean by that is that she can cut through deflect missile. She can cut through far save. So if you have her to like maybe get that done on turn 1 or maybe get that done on the engagement turn, then you can like Air Force is back on the table now, or like Legendary Leaf can hit and run again now. Like, there are all these units who are really good at hitting and running, who she allows to do the thing that they are getting stopped by other skills.
Yeah, I think for the popular playstyle of like just tanking or with save skills, I think she does very little. But I think that for some of the more creative strategies, C is extremely strong. So I've got her in B tier for that reason, near the top.
Yeah, I had her either top of C or somewhere in B, and I think I like B, actually. Another thing is that even on those tanking teams, I don't think she really has a spot on those most of the time, but when she's bonus or whatever, sometimes there is a really tanky unit who it's hard to cut through with like an armor, and she can do that. She can do that pretty well.
Yeah, she adds value to any team she's on. More value on some teams, but not like still some value.
She's kind of a delete button, and sometimes it is just really nice to have a delete button.
So, the last mythic on the list is not a very good one. We're ending on a pretty low note here. So really the only thing Yune's got going for her is that guaranteed follow-up, but the problem with her is that obviously that gets instantly shut down by no follow-up, and also, like, she's just not very bulky, so if she attacks someone and they just one-shot her back, it's like, she can't even get off the guaranteed double, so not great in my opinion.
Yeah, like, I would say that, the role she wants to fill in combat is very similar to Bramimond, but she doesn't do it nearly as well and loses way harder to the things that people need to have to beat Bramimond.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think this is a good tier for her.
Yeah, there's also the issue of same movement, weapon type, blessing as Triandra, and just not offering nearly as much.
Oh yeah, Triandra's better in combat, also gets the dance off sometimes.
Yep.
So this list is a little lopsided. There are a ton of people in A tier. Do you have any, like, you think we should adjust anything, or does it look okay?
I mean, I sort of feel like reading more into just what the tiers look like than like the conversations and reasons and general order of the thing is a pitfall, as the community loves to say. It's just, I mean, mythics exist to make money on banners with bad rates, right? Like, they have to be good. So it makes sense that more of them would be good.
Yeah, I don't think it would be reasonable to expect like an even distribution across the tiers.
We could do it, but it would just be the same order with different breaks. It doesn't really change much.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know, I think I'm pretty happy with this overall. I mean, like I said, I had Leaf in C tier initially, but like I'm fine with him being in D tier. I don't think he's very good. And the rest is really close to what I had initially as well.
Yeah, this is very similar to what I had. A few things, I don't think anything is more than a tier off of where I had it. And I think the ones where we disagreed, you made really good points on, and I'm happy with putting them where they are.
Yeah, I think the fact that when we did our initial tiers completely independently, the fact that all of our units were within one tier of each other, I feel like that means that our rankings are pretty good.
AR is a solved mode. You heard it here first.
If only. So I'm super happy with what we came up with. Thank you so much for joining me on this and for offering your Aether Raids expertise, because I do feel like we, in some cases, have pretty different playstyles. So, hearing that other perspective has been super helpful.
I think that we did a really good job of, I think all the mythics you don't have, I do have, and all the mythics I don't have, you do have. So we did just on a lot of levels, I think we did a really good job at filling in whatever gaps the other might have. So thank you so much for having me on. It's always a pleasure and a treat, and I'm glad to be part of it.
So yeah, everyone, Levin does daily Aether Raids content. Unlike my Aether Raids content, he actually does post daily. So if you like my stuff, if you like Aether Raids in general, please do go check out his channel. His Aether Raids videos are obviously super high level and enjoyable, if you weren't already able to tell from our discussions in this video. And yeah, let us know in the comments what you think of our rankings, because I'm sure there are probably some things that we missed or overlooked, and everyone has their own unique experiences with units. So yeah, just let us know your thoughts overall. And thank you all for watching. Bye.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for watching. Smash and bash the subscribe button on Promise's channel. Bye.